We have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck.
Good evening, everybody. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass is Captain Mark Wages. Thank you for joining us on the lifeboat. We're going to have a lot of fun today. I promise you. So before I get rolling, because I will squirrel off in a different direction and I will forget everything that I wanted to talk about. So before I do that, Cooley McCoolson, thank you, my brother. You're very generous, and it was we really do appreciate the support. Thank you so much. I mean that. Summer, good to see you. Hope you're hanging in there. So I got some emails yesterday, which is probably not a shocker, because yesterday's subject matter dealt with habits that are very much ingrained in some people, and people seem to take umbrage with with me saying that that cursing becomes an issue in people's lives. So I'm really sorry if I offended you. I really am. However, cursing becomes an issue in people's lives, right? You can go ahead and do whatever you want. Let it fly. You can let it fly. I'm definitely not telling you how to live. I am telling you that if people judge you after you do, then don't be surprised, right? That's the only point, because make no mistake, that's how it rolls. Just is, right? Good, bad, or the other. That is just how it rolls. And today, we're going to keep with that subject matter, since I probably didn't offend enough people yesterday. No, I'm kidding. This one is not going to be offensive, but it's going to be along the same vein, because as we transfer from the previous life into a new creation, and we talk about this a lot, right? You really do want to become a new person. I mean, at least it would make a lot of sense to think that you would want to become a new person, because very often the old person is so scarred by the particular affliction, the booze, the dope, whatever it is. It leaves scars to the point that it's often a lot better to sort of put that to rest and kind of move on. And here's the deal. It's not just because it seems like a good idea. All of the things that we're going to talk about today are not just because, hey, you know what? It's Tommy Psychobabble. And, the more that you can try to create something new in your life, the safer you're going to be, blah, blah, blah. Here's what it comes down to. What it comes down to is the reactive part of your brain just runs wild Something happens, it says, here, this is what you're supposed to do. Now, it doesn't force you to do it, but it certainly helps you in the right direction, right? It certainly gives you a little push from behind. And what you have to do is stop, consciously think to yourself, no, man, no, that's not what I want to do right now. That's not how I'm going to live. That's not how I'm going to react, right? I got to reprogram this. That's absolutely a fact. It's the way it works. Now, all the time people come here and they say, I'm having a really difficult time, right? I'm in my own head. I can't get out of my own head. What do we tell them? That's the first thing I tell all of those people. Get the hell out of the room you're in, right? Don't stare at the same four walls. Get outside, get a little air in your lungs, look around, get all of your senses engaged. You've heard that, right? I say it a lot. Okay, this is the exact same principle on a much bigger scale. Your previous life has four walls. Believe that. And we decorated them. We decorated them with all kinds of stuff, right? Stuff like not taking care of, responsibilities, stuff like clothing thrown all over the floor, right? Dishes piled up 4 feet high in the sink. All of these things are part of the addictive lifestyle. And you say, well, it's not really a big deal, Tommy. Well, the reason it's a big deal is because when you look at 3 feet of dishes coming out of a sink, you may just think to yourself, boy, I really need to do those dishes. But there is the striatum part of your brain that remembers you honestly being depressed at the thought of that, right? Man, screw it. I'm not doing that. I'm going to get high.
Yeah.
So much of this becomes ingrained in who you are that when I say things like, if you're moving into the new you, then you don't want to bring all of this old stuff with you, right? We're not saying it for any other reason other than it greatly increases your chances of success. It really does. If you just change nothing but the substance. All right, I'm going to leave the kitchen trashed. I'm going to shower 3 days a week. I'm probably not going to shave. Every other effing word out of my effing mouth is going to be a curse, right? If you go into my car, there's going to be 30 bags of McDonald's stuff piled on the floorboard in the passenger side. And you know what? The registration is probably out 2 months. Does that sound at all familiar? Because that's the life I lived. That is absolutely the life I lived. If I got pulled over by a cop, he looked in the car and went, good God, right? He sees all of that stuff in there. And the first thought, what do you think he thinks, people? Here's a college professor, on the way down to the university. He's probably going to give a speech, right? Or this guy, probably on his way to do brain surgery. He's looking down and going, this dude's on dope. Nobody would let their car get like this if they weren't on dope. You understand? Yep. So when I say things like, the cursing ends up having people look at you in a specific way. So does everything else. And the saddest part is, especially to those of you who took the time to write me an email, and I love you. I love every single one of you. I really do. But that habit tells people something about the person who does it. You know who it tells? Everybody. Do you know who everybody is? Yourself included. Whether you realize it or not, you're telling yourself the exact same thing. These are the 4 walls that you built. Now you got an excellent shot at tearing them down and starting from scratch. And it's not massive things. Here's really where it gets kind of frightening for a lot of people, right? The concept of quitting dope and changing who you are is overwhelming, right? Good God, just the dope part's overwhelming. And now, Tommy, you want me to do this, this, and this? I get it. It's massively overwhelming. So what we want to do is we want to cut it down into smaller parts. This works for everything in life, by the way, but it's huge when it comes to trying to get sober and live a sober life. You got to compartmentalize this crap into really small little sections that you can knock off. Why do you think I beat it to death that you got to get up and make your bed? It's the first thing in the morning that says, this is the new me, right? You get out of bed and say, this is the new me. This is the way I'm going to be. I'm never going to leave that looking bad because I always left that looking bad. So I'm going to take 3 minutes, 4 minutes. I'm going to make the bed. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to brush my teeth. I'm going to take a shower. Do you know how many people completely give up on hygiene? For real. And I'm not looking down my snout. I'm not,
Truth, man.
doing any of those games. Because I'll tell you something. There were times, and I've said this before on the lifeboat. There were times I slept in my jeans, right? And I might have gone 4 days with those babies on.
Yep.
I definitely wasn't getting into the shower. And for those of you who have ever, kicked any kind of opiate, when you're in withdrawal, water hitting your skin feels like needles. It's one of the most uncomfortable feeling in the entire world. And for that reason, it becomes what? It becomes a reflex. It really does. If you're not feeling like $1,000,000, your brain's going, don't get in that shower. Don't get in that shower. Do not get in that shower. It's going to suck.
Yeah.
It really happens, people. So we have to reprogram every single part of our mind. And it is so much easier to do. In a perfect world, you know what we would do? In a perfect world, we would pluck you out of the town that you're in, right? We'd get you a brand new wardrobe. We'd get you new furniture. We would drop you in a new town, in a new apartment or a new house, whatever. That's the best case scenario. For real, you want a really good shot at turning your life around and doing it really quick? This would be the perfect case scenario.
Yep.
How realistic is that?
Yeah.
Probably not very, right? Probably not very, especially considering that when you're trying to get sober, more than likely you probably thrashed, your economic status. Very often, that's something that takes a real hit. And once again, it's something that the old you did not take any responsibility for. The old me didn't, right? I'd write checks on accounts that weren't even active if it meant I could get money to go get dope. So going forward, one of the things that I focused on the hardest was that, making sure that not one day in my life ever is going to go by where I got an overdraft charge on any account I have.
Well,
I'm not going to have cards that are running $25,000.
There's a question here that fits right into that, Tommy, right here.
Go ahead.
It's Grand Madness. Let me go back and read it for you. They're asking a question. Is it important for those people that can afford it? Let me just read it for word. If you can afford an addiction, is it different to those that can't?
It is, but not because of the reasons that may jump out the page at you, but what happens when you can afford your addiction? And I started this way, right? I started out for probably the first decade that I was doing dope. Not only was it easy to buy, right? Like I was never running out of money, but it didn't hurt. Like it didn't feel like it was affecting my financial status. However, the worst part about being able to afford your addiction is very often it'll keep you from ever hitting rock bottom. It'll keep you trapped in a cycle that can do way more damage. There's something to be said for crack cocaine, right?
Yeah.
There's something to be said for tar heroin. I'm serious. Because they're the kind of drugs that I don't care how much money you're making, it's going to get very difficult to continue to afford the lifestyle. And I don't mean that, you might not always have enough money, but I don't care how much money you have, right? I remember times where I was sitting in my living room with $5,000 on the little table and going, that money is worthless because I can't get a bag of dope to make me feel better with it. The town just, wasn't happening. A drug bust happened or whatever, but if you're able to afford your habit, your brain is going to tell yourself that you're functional, right? You got nothing to worry about. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Right.
Keep doing what you're doing. So that is probably the biggest difference. Now, other than that, no. The way you have to change, everything is the same. It's all the same.
Yeah.
Now, if very often the lifestyle doesn't change. Like when I was on dope, but I could afford it, I still had 3 feet of dishes hanging out at my sink. I may have a very nice automobile, but I still had McDonald's bags piled up on the, on the side where the feet would be on the passenger side. Cause I didn't give a crap about anything but dope.
Yep.
That's really what happens. And the longer you're in it, the less you give a crap about anything else, right? The longer you're in that game, the worse it gets. But drugs, basically plant seeds and water bad habits. For real. Drugs will run rampant through you and absolutely crank out the worst habits you could possibly even dream of. Hygiene, the house, like your house is just unbelievable. How many times you walked into somebody's house who's on dope and you just go, good God, how do they live like this? You know, I remember going to a guy's house. I was with a nephew of mine, and he didn't know why we were there. I was in there to, to grab dope. But when we went in and sat down on the couch, there were 3 piles of dog crap in this man's living room.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Couldn't be bothered.
Yeah,
right?
it's crazy. It
Couldn't
really
be bothered. And what was really funny too, because we laughed about it when we got in the car for about an hour. He had about 9 vacuum cleaners. I don't know if that's what he
Sorry,
what his hustle. But when we got into the car, I said to my nephew, I said, I don't think he's using a lot of those vacuum cleaners.
But Christopher,
You know what I mean?
Christopher here says this actually plays right into it. It says a friend of his who was addicted to heroin is no longer on the planet. Obviously, he's passed away due to hepatitis. Said he was sick and he found a balloon on the side of the street in New York. My guess is he used it. I would assume.
Right.
And that's the point you get to, guys. You just
He
don't
says, and it turned out that he follows this up and says, and it turned out to be something really bad. He felt that his heart was racing, and he prayed to God that if he survived, he would never do it again. And then he survived, and his friend came over with heroin.
It happens a lot.
It happens a lot.
Yep.
It happens a lot, and you know it's also right in line with what we're talking about.
Yep.
Really,
It is.
because what happened to him? His friend came over, right? You might not want to maintain the same group of friends if you're trying to get sober. They will be an anchor. Doesn't mean you can't love them. Doesn't mean that, all of those things, but you can't really have them around. Now, when you get rock solid in your sobriety, maybe you want to go back and try to help them. But if you try to help them at 2 weeks sober, even at half a year sober, it's a cliche we use all the time, but the odds of you picking somebody up, right, out of your friends to get them sober are not nearly as good as the odds of them dragging you down.
And
it's just the way it is.
Even with
go ahead.
Even with rehab facilities, they don't. Most rehabs will not let couples come in. There are specific ones that will, but even if you're like a couple, they want you to get away from each other.
Yeah,
because they know that environment you guys both live together. Okay, now if it was somebody that you dated 5 years ago, and you guys became addicted away from each other, and then got clean and came back together, that's a different thing. It's a total different thing. And in the rehab facilities, they do recognize this, and it's one of those things. Like when I was in in-house rehab, they separated the men and the women. They would not let us be together.
Oh, I've never seen a rehab that didn't separate the men and the women, and for really obvious reasons.
Yeah, a lot of reasons.
Well, we talk about this a lot. When you're using something to the point of addiction, then you shut down a great deal of your EQ, right? Your emotional quotient just comes to a grinding halt. So you got 25 women on one side who have been doing that for 4 or 5 years or whatever, 10 in some cases. And you got 25 guys on the other side that have been doing the exact same thing. And then you tear all that away and let all of those emotions come back at once and put them together. Nothing good's going to happen. Nothing good is going to happen.
Exactly.
They will fall in love in 15 minutes because they haven't felt anything like that in so long. That's why all the old timers say, look, man, you got to do 2 years before you even think about talking to a woman, in that way, because you will fall in love with the first one that comes to you. It's just the way it is, because it's the concept that you're falling in love with. Good God, women, I remember this feeling. She's awesome, right? This one's for me. And very often, where do you meet that first girl?
In rehab.
Yeah, and not a great.
And for like somebody like yourself that went to jail, that even adds another layer to that. You know what I mean? You come out and you're, because you were in there with no women, and then all of a sudden you're surrounded with them again. And you know what I mean? Did that affect you at all? I mean, did that?
Oh yeah.
Did it?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. But one of the things that really probably the last maybe 6 to 8 months before I walked out of prison, I voluntarily went into every single course that you could take. And a lot of them were taught by inmates that had actually made it, and every one of them, it was so rare that anyone would say, I got out, I did everything right, and this is what happened. They said, I got out, I fell flat on my face, I came right back to prison. But the next time right? I did this, this, and this. So for a change, I thought, boy, it might be really nice if I learned from this cat's mistake, instead of from my own. And he said, boy, when you get in the halfway house, there's going to be a floor that's nothing but women. Might be the second floor, might be the third floor. Don't go on it. Don't go near it. People, they will send you immediately back. And I watched people go back every day because they had a relationship of some kind going. You just couldn't do it. And, my freedom became worth more to me than anything that I had ever had. Right. And I count my sobriety as part of that, because without sobriety, there's no freedom. So yeah, no, it definitely was there though. I mean, every girl that walked by for the first, 8 years, you haven't seen a woman, that definitely plays, havoc on you. It really does. Okay, people. So we're changing places. We're changing walls, right? Real walls, in terms of, I'm not going to have clothing all over the floor. I'm going to hang stuff up. I'm going to do laundry before every single piece of clothing I have is dirty. That was the old routine. When there was nothing left that I could put on that was even remotely clean, it was time to do laundry. And it was usually 7 or 8 loads, because I just, piled up clothing like that. But once all of that is taken care of, and this is what I mean by compartmentalizing it and just knocking out little things, right? You may not be able to make that entire house clean, but if you walk by and you see something, pick it up, right? If there's something out of place, pick it up. One thing. If you knock out one thing every 35 minutes, in about a week, you will have made a huge difference, and you'll get excited about that difference. Start in the sink, right? Don't have any dishes in the sink. That's a killer. It really is. It's a killer. Because when you go to eat, when you go to get water, when you go to do anything, it just screams, we're not doing it. We're not doing what we're supposed to, right? We're not doing what we're supposed to. Whether you articulate that, or whether you even realize that that's what it's saying, your brain's going, we're right on the right track. He's going to be doing dope by Friday. Believe it.
Yeah.
That's what happens. So once all that is taken care of, you start moving on to character traits. And if you think about what character traits you exhibited when you were on dope, look, you know what? Some of you might have just been great people. I talked to people who maintained jobs and they did all of these things. Man, that just was not me, right? I became a liar. That was the absolute biggest defining characteristic of who I was. It was my honesty or lack of it. So when I started trying to be something new, I was not going to lie to anybody about anything. I wasn't. I knew what was going to happen. I knew
Almost
from a little study, that once I started to lie, it's one chink in the armor, right? One brick that gets pulled out of this wall, very near the bottom, by the way. And it's one. And now it starts getting a little bit shaky, right? Once that starts, the next thing is keeping your word, right? So you already started to lie, and then somebody says to you, yeah, I can lend you that. You sure you can pay me on Friday? And you ain't getting paid on Friday, right? You get paid every 2 weeks, but you want that. So you say to them, no, yeah, I got you on Friday. I got you, right? Your word's no good. And then you got to lie to them on Friday, don't you? Man, you're not going to believe this, right? They just went to direct deposit. So I got to wait until next Friday to get my check. Dude, I am so sorry. Now you have knocked out 2 of the bricks at the bottom. You understand what's happening? I mean, this is a fact, people. I'm not joking with this. This is really what happens.
Yannick makes a really good comment here. It's pretty cool.
Do it.
It says, hi, guys, I'm French, and all the captain put in perspective are universal. What he's saying is it's worldwide like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
you know what? And I believe that. These really are universal truths. And that was something that jumped out at me when I was addicted to dope. There was a period of time, like I said, when I paid all of my bills, and I went all over the world, right? I went all over the world, smuggled dope on every airplane, right? So I would have stuff. But very often I would run out, and I would be trying to get dope in Europe, in a city I've never been in, but everything was the same. The communication may not have been exactly the same, but we're sitting waiting in a parking lot for some guy that they're cursing about how late he is. It was the exact same thing. Like, no matter where you went, right? That lifestyle just breeds that lifestyle. Then you get to dedication, right? It's kind of like giving somebody your word, but you find that when people first get out, right, of prison, using it as an example, when you first get out, I don't care what job they give you. I don't care what job they give you, because for the last 8 years, you've been working at 25 cents an hour, and that's big money, right? Big money. A lot of jobs are $30 a month. Doesn't matter how many hours you put in, right? So you have been working your tail off and really getting beat over it, right? They're not particularly nice to you. So now you have an opportunity, and I don't care what they do, right? If you get a job sweeping the floor, the attitude is always there is never going to be a person on this planet that's going to sweep a floor better than I'm about to, right? When this guy walks out, he's going to go, holy crap, 30 years, I've never seen a floor like that. And no matter what it is that you were, that kind of go-getting, that kind of pride in what you do, when that starts to erode, right, at that point, you're screwed. Now, you're in full-blown relapse. Doesn't mean you're high yet, but you are in deep trouble.
Yep.
You're in deep trouble. As the the stuff on the bottom, as in cleaning the dishes in the sink, right? Doing all of those things. Those are important because they affect what we're talking about right now. They affect, your ability to keep your word. They affect all, because the way you act, right? You have a person telling you every day you're a loser because of what you're doing. And that person is you. Now, whether you realize it or not, that's exactly what's going on in your dome, right? All day, every day. Man, there's no way I may as well go drive to the prison. I guarantee I'm going there.
And if if nobody else sees it but you've seen it.
Yeah.
So so in your mind, you're still doing the same thing you always did. So I know that, that's just petty stuff or whatever. It's not, guys. I'm telling you. This is how people live their lives. And this is how we change. That's what Tommy's talking about. Building new habits and making those habits mean something.
Yeah. Grand Madness has got a comment. He says, as a counter, if the habit is only a small percentage of your salary, but you deliver 99% of your life choices to make your family, to make your family and grow, what do you think? I think you're bullshitting yourself. Sorry. There's no other way to say it. If you really believe that 1%, drugs are taking up 1% and the other 99%, so you never had to cruise out to get this when you should have been with your kid. You never had to do any of those things where you had to put the dope before the kid. I don't buy that. I really don't. But if that's the case, then you are the first I have ever met. And my hat's off to you. Does not mean you're not going to end up flat on your face like every other addict. I've never met one. Yeah. To this date, I've never met one that, basically can maintain that. If I met a guy once who his drug of choice was alcohol. And he said, I never drink more than this. And he set his limit, but he drank every single night of the week. Never beat his kids, right? Never abused his wife, none of that stuff. But he drank 7 days a week. And if you talk to his kids now who are my age, they'll tell you, I don't remember one night of my life that dad wasn't drunk. Well, that leaves a mark.
Yes, it does.
But what's worse is cirrhosis of the liver, which is exactly what happened to this cat. By the time his kids were getting married, by the time his kids were in their early 30s, dad would get just as drunk, but he would do it on one beer, right? Because the liver is no longer processing out the booze, right? No matter how much we think we got stuff in control, that is the absolute most insidious thing that your brain can do to you, right? There's an old cliche that says the most dangerous thing that the devil ever did, right, was make people believe that he didn't exist. Well, it's a very similar concept in that the most dangerous thing that your brain can do is convince you that you don't have a problem in any way. Here's the thing. Take off 7 or 8 days. Don't do it for 7 or 8 days. Tell me what happens, right? If that is a problem, then chances are you have one, and the people around you tend to notice things that you don't think they're noticing, right? All right, brother? My bobble-headed partner's looking a little shaky. All right. You all right?
Oh, yeah, I'm fine, guys. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
Good. No, you're good. You're good. Yeah, I've never seen it where it doesn't unravel people at the seams. However, I'll tell you this. If you met me 5 years into my heroin addiction, I'd have swore on a stack of Bibles that was me. When people said, have you seen so and so? I mean, literally, the guy's out stealing to get dope. I'd go, yeah, because he's a junkie. He's a junkie. Like I do dope. That cat's a junkie. And, looked down my nose and thought, they're so different than me. I'd never be that guy. And I became so much worse than all of them, right? I became so much worse than all of them. Man, I sold out the things in my life that meant the most to me. And that's sort of the next rung, right? Is taking care of the things that are a step up from character traits. These are the things that you can't even really quantify, right? And they're the kind of things that people can't see. Love for your kids. Because I'll tell you something. I love my daughter more than anything in the entire world. But when I was sticking needles in my arms, I didn't care. It's just the truth. You know what I mean? Didn't care. Sometimes a week could go by that I didn't think about her. That's just who I was. And that's not who I am as a person. But when you let heroin take the wheel, or you let booze take the wheel, bad things happen. And then you start to realize that bad things happen. Guilt sets in, right? About 5 hours out of whatever drug you're using, and you better do more drugs. Because if you don't, that guilt's going to drive you literally insane. But when you start getting up into that, the things that you take pride in, if you ever knew somebody that if you've ever had the misfortune of watching somebody walk from, I get high every once in a while, to this stuff owns me. If you've ever seen that go, there are, like, I know I've told the story before. I had a friend named Jeff, and the guy spent his entire life collecting stuff for rock climbing. This was his passion more than anything in the world. And there was not one piece of equipment that this guy didn't have that you would use to climb rocks. Like, he was really, really into it. And I mean the tents and so you can sleep on the side of the rock and all this stuff. And it probably cost him a couple of $100,000 to build this collection over the course of about 15 years. It took him 6 months to pawn that stuff for dope. And the first time that you go into a pawn shop and the guy says to you, that watch is worth 12 grand. I'll give you 1,600. And you just think, you dirt bag. I'll borrow the 1,600, but I'm coming back. There's no way I'm losing this. When those things start to happen, right? When the things that meant the most to you in your life are now for sale, right? When the heirlooms that have been given to you are in pawn shops, right? We have gotten to a point that their life is off the rails. And the reason that that's so scary is, how do you now rebuild without that guilt destroying you? You want the answer to that? Because there is one. You come to the realization that I'm not the kind of guy that wouldn't think about my daughter. I'm not the kind of guy that would pawn things that were given to me by my ancestors, right? I'm not the kind of guy that would go into a bank and rob it so that I can continue to get high. I'm not the kind of guy that would punch somebody in the face for the ability to get stoned one more day. No one in their right mind lives that way. So you're not in your right mind. For me, that was old Tommy. For real. This is how I live. Because the new Tommy, the guy that you people have met, you never saw the old me. You would not have liked me. But I assure you, it is as far away as one person can be from another. I created a new person, and I made that person everything that I ever wished that I could have been. Mental Grace says, I'm addicted to my stuff. I used to be. I have a real passion for watches. If I had every watch that I had ever pawned to get drugs, I could pay off this house. And the reason is I bought stuff that at the time, was not a very expensive watch. Over time, those watches have become worth six figures, but I probably sold them for $200 so I could go get heroin. It's really an awful, awful way to live. Hold on a second. I'd rather you take them and throw them in the air and use them for target practice than to have them piled in the sink. Referring to dishes. I got a funny story, and I hope that my friend watches this, right? Because he came on about a week ago, I told you that a friend of mine I hadn't talked to in about 30 years found the lifeboat. So we were living in Boulder, Colorado, and I was on the run. I was a fugitive from justice, right? I had a $500,000 warrant out for my arrest, and I was hiding about 7 states away. And we were living in Boulder, right on the hill. Pretty cool address, actually, right across the street from a fraternity house. But we had the second floor of this house. And my partner, right, my business partner, the guy that I was on the run with, didn't do a whole lot. Love him, great guy. Didn't do a whole lot. I was out hustling, doing whatever I could to try to make sure that we had enough money to eat, things like that. Because when we ran nothing, clothes on our back. And then one day I said to him, I was going out to go make money. And I said to him, I cannot come back and look at that kitchen. Do you understand? For real. I'm going to blow an O-ring. If I come back and that kitchen looks the way it does, I'm going to lose my mind. So while I'm gone, you're going to clean, right? Capiche? I said, I'm not playing games. And a couple of days before, I had said the same thing and would come home only to see the exact same stuff. So this time I really made a big stink. And I got home that night at about 7, and I walked in, and there was nothing in that sink. The counters were cleaned. Everything was scrubbed. It was perfect. And I went and sat on the couch. I drank a little. I went to sleep, and I thought, that's a beautiful thing. And then I got up in the morning, and I grabbed a box of cereal, and I went to go get a bowl, and there weren't any. There was also no silverware.
Threw them all out.
I'm not kidding you.
Wow.
He threw everything in the kitchen away.
Oh.
Yeah. But as crazy as this is going to sound, I was really happy. I was bummed out I didn't have something to eat out of, but seeing that stuff piled up was literally driving me insane. Now, here's the thing, people. Ilea says, I'm literally washing dishes right now. It's a beautiful thing. This is going to be different for every one of you. I know that there are people that are hearing me talk right now who say, no, not that stuff. This, right? Or he didn't mention that, but I got rid of those. I sold them, right? Jewelry, whatever the case may be. All of these things, these are very, very, they're very personal to me. These are the things that I managed to destroy. And when we get up into to the higher echelon, there are things that I think all of us did to some level. Relationships, friendships, family, right? The last things to get hit, and don't get me wrong. We destroyed that stuff along the way, right? We did irreparable damage sometimes along the way. But when you get to the full-blown end, you literally walk away. You walk away from family. You walk away from friends. You walk away from God, right? Anything that is important to you that infringes even slightly on your ability to continue your habit. It's like having the little angel on one side and the devil on the other that they do in all the cartoons. But one of them is the drug. And it's saying, boy, you know what? If you let that woman back in this house, she's going to do everything within her power to make sure you don't do drugs anymore. You're going to have to get sick. You're going to have to deal with all those things. And your brain just starts telling you this. And it starts repeating it over and over again until it becomes an automatic negative thought, right? And you'll let it run wild. What does it take? What do we say? About 2 minutes to think of something else and clear that in your brain? Well, you don't do that, right? When you're in the life, there's no way to clear that stuff out of your head. You'll sit there and those ants will crawl over you sometimes for days, right? Driving you into a kind of depression that, very few people, come back from without getting off the dope, right? Yep. You really have to change your life. So because all of this is unique to every single one of you and every single one of us, me, everybody, you got to figure out exactly where your limits are, right? Dishes don't bother you in the slightest? Fine. But there's something that reminds you of failure, right? And if you say, no, I don't mind living in any of that stuff, you're going to go back to doing dope because you're lying. I mean, plain and simple. Yeah. Or you don't realize that it does. But again, you really have to, and some things like language, right? I certainly don't want to talk like a guy that does dope. I don't. And that's not just cursing. That's, all of that, there's a lot of
There's a slang there.
sort of language that goes along with
Yeah,
that,
there's
right?
a slang. It happens. It's like the Urban
Slang, right?
Dictionary, man. It really is, and it's
Yeah, you buy a bag of everything, right? But you cop a bag of heroin for whatever reason, right? That drug is just referred to differently. And I wanted all of those things out of my vocabulary, out of my life. And for me, it was a matter of shutting all of this down. There was no option for me. And I'm not saying that that's going to be everybody. Christopher Allen says, you guys come up with some pretty good dad jokes in the comment section.
Sebas must be in there dropping on. I think he has been. I think he's been in there dropping some.
Well, the amazing thing is his consistency. You have any idea how long he has just been consistently putting those up? I don't think he's ever told one twice.
I think he's got like, I don't know, maybe he's got like a library on standby.
He's got something.
Something in there, man. He's got them script glasses. You put glasses on, and it's got a teleprompter inside it.
Yeah, he doesn't miss them though. He really doesn't. Now, if you're listening to anything that I'm saying, and I'm offending the hell out of you, that's probably a really good thing. Honestly, I don't want to make you angry at me, but I remember the times in my life when someone would say something, this needs to be worked on, or that needs to be worked on, or this is a habit that if it didn't affect me, I'd give a crap. I could sit up there and talk for days. But even going to church, but the days that I felt like he was talking to me, those days drove me insane. Where do boats go when they're sick?
Yeah.
To the dock.
Gotta love it. Love it, man.
Ilea says, I have a book called Bad Dad Jokes. I sent a copy to Marv. Seventh Son has an entire bookshelf full of dad jokes. There's no other explanation. The man spends a lot of time researching it.
What up,
Lady Chris, great to see you.
What's up, girl? Hope you're doing well over there.
Christopher Allen says, yeah, I wanted things I don't like about going sober is I will hallucinate for about a couple of days. And it's not bad. Sorry, just scrolled out of my view. It's not bad. I just think somebody's walking around the door or going through the hallway around the corner. You know what? You need to be very careful when you're quitting and you're having really vivid auditory hallucinations. If you're having really vivid visual hallucinations, you are to the point where you should not be quitting cold turkey, right? For real. Those are dead giveaway signs that you need to come off of alcohol at a slower rate. Just the way it is. And this is the reason we say everybody, and I mean everybody, should talk to a doctor before they quit benzodiazepines or before they quit alcohol. Just go see a doctor and say, hey, you know what? Am I one of those guys that can, or gals that can just put down the bottle? Or do you think I'm going to be in danger by doing it? If he thinks or she thinks you're going to be in danger, they're going to put you on a low dose benzo, right? A really weak benzodiazepine. They might put you on Xanax, itty bitty little amounts of alprazolam, or they'll put you on, there's a whole host of them. And every doctor sort of picks the one that they seem to like the best for whatever. But they will put you on really small amounts of benzos to keep you, stepping off so that there's no danger of you going into delirium tremens. There's no danger of you seizing up and passing away, because that does happen. It really does.
Yes, it does.
Fiona says, I cannot do individual hellos. Sorry, because I'm on my phone and I'm a bit temperamental. Sending big hugs to you all. And I didn't even get a personal one, so she must be busy. Alan Ballantyne says, use the negative memories of your past to drive you to make positive memories for your future. Not only is that a really good comment, but it's coming from the guy that's doing this every day, right? This is a cat living the life. He is. If you're new to the boat, Alan managed to stop doing methamphetamine, which he ran up really big debts on. You should probably go back and watch some of the interviews. And then he quit drinking. And then he decided that he was going to lose about 2/3 of his body weight.
Yeah.
And, and got down to, I mean, he is a shell of his former self. He really is. If you look at the pictures of the before and afters, they're absolutely unbelievable. But I have been watching this man set one goal after another and achieving it. And it's funny because that's one of the ones that I wanted to finish up with. So you get up in the morning and you make your bed. Trust me, it's a good idea. There are 10 books written by people there's one called Make Your Bed. Great book if you can get it. Fantastic book about the importance of it. It really is an important thing. Plain and simple. Start the day by saying I'm different. Start the day by saying I'm going to win today. I'm not going to let anything kick my butt. I'm going to convince my therapist to step me down off Wellbutrin. Schrodinger's squirrel. You know what? That may not be a bad idea, especially if you feel like, if it's making you uncomfortable or you don't think it's a SSRI that you need anymore, then you should definitely be off of it. Grand Madness, thank you so much, brother. Really appreciate that.
Yep.
And I assume, brother, I do that a lot. Like, I don't know if Grand Madness is a guy or a gal.
I do. I think we just kind of default back to guy, and it's just what.
It's just one of those things that I do. I happen to really dig the name Schrodinger's squirrel. Absolutely love that. Probably has nothing to do with the boat, but boy, do I love that. So,
Joanna, before you move on, Joanna, I accidentally hit Heather on accident. I hit the wrong button, so.
And I didn't do it. See that?
That was me.
Had nothing to do with my big fingers.
Yeah, that was me.
So, so you get up in the morning, you make your bed. From what happens from that point until the end of the day, when you hopefully take out a journal and write down whether or not that day you moved forward or you were heading in the wrong direction. I'm telling you, people, reflection on your day seems like it shouldn't be that big a deal, right? Should seem kind of obvious. If you read The Habits of Successful People, if you read the books about The Millionaire Next Door, if you read about any of those people, all of them take time at the end of every single day. It's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. Everybody's routine is a little different, but all of them take a pen and a piece of paper and write down what they did that day. You don't have to break it down minute by minute. But today was a tough day. Really thought about using it. Put me on edge. I screamed at the woman at Starbucks. Kind of feel like an idiot about it. If that's all you write down, but you go back through and you start looking through it, and every time you start losing it and screaming at people in different places, you know exactly what's going to happen next. You are going to learn how to be your own therapist if you take the time to write down what has happened to you during the day. And one of the other things that I really want people to get out of this, if you don't decide to make you a new you, right? If you're not the new version of you, what are you? Right?
Yeah.
You're the old version of you. There's not really another option. You're either a new creation or you're the old version. And I'll tell you something, if the old version was doing everything right, you would not be listening to me. Right? Honestly, probably be on a different channel. And I love that you're here. I really do. Every one of you love it. But and if you just got here, please don't ever think that I have it all put together and that I'm ever looking down. People, I struggle every single day. Now, truthfully, I don't struggle much these days in terms of fighting off, the desire to get high. That's not something that comes up too often with me. It really doesn't. However, being the best version of myself is something that I wrestle with every day. I've shared on the boat often that I have a really short fuse. And perfect example, last night, reflecting through the day, I lost the phone. I left it somewhere. Why, thank you, Fiona. Personal hello. See, I'll take that. Thanks, Fiona. I left my phone. Actually, I dropped it in a parking lot. And then I drove home and I couldn't find the phone. And I couldn't even remember if I had come into the house. And, you know that I'm struggling with memory and everything else. And I absolutely lost my mind, right? I really, really lost it. And I'm not, Mark has seen this before. Not, fortunately, very few of you have. Fiona probably has too. But I am so not me that if you saw it, it would make you really, really uncomfortable. And it's not something that I'm proud of. I hate it. I really do. I hate it. But if you go to bed and you forget that you did it, right? If you just go and lay down and it's just another day, then nothing good came of it, right? You did damage because you scared the hell out of everyone who was looking at you. You made everybody uncomfortable, but nothing good came of it. So if you take the time at the end of every day to just, walk through your day, if you want to blow off every single thing I said, make your damn bed and take time at the end of the day. And if you're smart, you're going to write it down because it makes it very easy to,
Yeah, I'm sure Johnny's seen
Johnny
it too.
says,
Yep.
Johnny says, oh, I've seen it.
But I would say this too. Those of us that have seen whatever, whoever you're talking about, don't have to be Tommy, it could be anybody. You can see when they know that they're doing something that they don't want to be doing. They know that what they're doing there is making them feel wrong, and that's that's a telltale sign that somebody is trying to not do that.
Right.
You don't always succeed. I mean, that's what we do. We fail and we get back up. We fail, we get back up. We're stronger. We fail, we get back up. We're stronger. That's just how it works. Until those episodes become so far apart, removed from each other, that it's almost like it's not there. And and like I said, I know Tommy's seen even me grow. I've seen him grow. We've seen all you guys grow. Not like physically with your face. That's the advantage me and Tommy kind of have with each other. But
Right.
but we see it. We see how somebody that came in here new on the boat and just got clean either right before we started our show or right, a week or two after, and they were here from the beginning. If you were to go back and read the chat, the way that people talk, you can see it. It's amazing how the progression happens. And it does happen right in front of your eyes. It's just sometimes it happens so slow that it's hard to see. And so what I've actually done this before. I go back and I can't remember who I did this to. I would tell you who it was because I just can't remember who it was. But I went back and I remembered something they'd said like on our third or fourth live stream. And I went back and I read what they said, and then I read something they said the other day. And it was like two different people.
Absolutely.
It truly was like two different people.
I'm going to throw this out because I don't think it would offend them. But was it noise opera?
It might have been.
Because I'll tell you something.
It might have
you want
been.
to talk about a person that just, is light years.
Yeah.
From where they started out. I mean, really good stuff.
Yep.
Angel says, I fight with my inside the skin feeling about myself. It's like ripping your skin off in search of the new you, and I'm still doing it. So am I. That process happens a lot faster if you try to make it happen a lot faster. If you let it take its natural course, right? That really is the old version of you, right? You just sort of, you're a leaf on a river and you're just going to see where it takes you. If you say, I really see this, Chuck Norris, great comment. Writing things down makes you think more in depth about your day and what happened in it too. It works in many positive ways to help. It absolutely does. And I'm telling you, this is a proactive way to start trying to change who you are. It astounds me how many times I talk to people who say, I want this, this, and this more than anything in the world, right? Now that I'm clean, I want to do this, I want this, and I want this. And I'll go, cool, what are you doing? Right? How'd you start?
Yep.
And you get crickets. Well, I haven't gone on it yet. 6 years from now, you're going to be saying the exact same thing. Get a piece of paper, get a pen, write down what you want to do, and write down 4 things that you think might advance that in the forward direction. Then at the end of the day, see what you wrote down. If they're not jiving with those 4 things, maybe you need to look at it again, right?
Yeah, there's no right or wrong
if you
either.
Start writing stuff down, you're going to change your life. Go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. No, I mean, I'm just saying there is no right or wrong there either. It's like you're going to grow at the pace you're going to grow. and that's just how it happens. And you got to be able to accept that. And you know, and Tommy used to always say this. I don't think he said it in a while, but you know, if you don't write down your goal or have the goal, how are you going to get there? You don't even know where you're going. You're just kind of wandering around aimlessly, like it's just going to hit you across the head or something. It doesn't work
Right.
like that, guys. Not for most people. Every great once in a while, you'll get that oddity where somebody just gets smacked across the face with something and they change immediately, right? But most of the time, you got to know what your change is going to be about. You got to know where you're going to try to achieve to get to. You got to know where the finish line is. At least a checkpoint is what I would say.
Yeah.
You know, because I don't think we ever get to the finish line until, you know, we're you know, taking that dirt nap. But
Yep.
but that's just what it is. And you know, I'm a man from the '80s. I was played video games my whole life, and there was always checkpoints. What happened in a video game when we were kids, and you didn't get to your checkpoint? Guess what? You had to go back and start that whole level all over until you could get to your checkpoint. And
Right.
it's the same thing with what we're doing here.
It really
It-
is.
it
It's a
truly-
great analogy too. It's a
Yeah.
really good analogy. Two comments that I think are great. Heather says, Tommy says to make your bed and clean your kitchen. Great advice. Your surroundings reflect your inner self. Messy house, messy mind.
As funny as that is,
If
it's
I
true.
came up with this stuff, I would tell you all to be scared. You know, if Tommy came up with any of this stuff, I would tell you to be scared. I looked at people who had it together way more than I did. And I honestly, I spent a number of years, and people, I did this in prison, but I spent a number of years, any person that I saw in prison that was living differently, that looked happy, that looked like, you know, they kept to themselves. They weren't a part of this. They weren't cursing. They just didn't seem to be a part of any of that. I'd walk up and say, what are you doing? You know, what do you got going? And, you know, the teeny little thing that they give you, right? They give you this walk-in closet. It's the only thing you got. And I mean, if you let that get dirty, you know, there's just nothing that good is going to start, right? That's like she said, you know, it's a messy, you know, you got a messy house, you got a messy mind, you got a messy life. And all of these things, it's pretty basic stuff. It really is. But if you go, that's just crazy, you will be struggling for a long period of time. If you start looking at people who are being successful, don't look at me, the people I copied. If you start looking at people who are successful and doing what they do, really wild things happen. Make your bed for 2 weeks. Take a journal and write down what happens at the end of the day for 2 weeks. Then come back and tell me I'm an idiot, right? Come back and tell me how nothing, you didn't feel any better. Nothing good happened. Come on back and tell me I'm an idiot. Just give it 14 days, please. Please. And I was showing my bobbleheaded partner when I started today. This.
So
You see that, people?
It's freaking awesome, man.
This is a really big deal.
Yes.
This is a really, really big deal because as you know, as what my past life was, you know, being able to leave the country is a pretty epic thing. Now, there's a lot of places I still can't go, and that's, you know, you're paying the fiddler for the rest of your life on some of that. However, the United States of America knows I have a passport, and they're not particularly bent out of shape about it. And it may seem like an insignificant little piece of paper, right, or a little booklet, but what it's done for me, right? It's like Mark just said, it's a checkpoint. It really is. Like, this is a massive checkpoint for me. This is a big one. And if I do end up sliding back, I'm not going back past that. I will catch myself and go, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yep. Exactly. And I think it's such a great thing to grab a hold of because, you know, and it's awesome that you see that, you know, not everybody is able, even though you did something great there, some people can't even see how great that is, even when they're doing it themselves. Sometimes you're just going through the motions, and that you could, you know, when he showed me that first thing, I was like, man, that was so freaking cool. You know, I was like, where are you going? First thing I said
Right.
to him was like, man, what plane you get, what country are you taking off to right now? But no, it's a huge deal, guys. So those are the checkpoints that we love to talk about. And you know, and Trish, thank you for being here. You know, I know you said thanks for the great uplifting show, and this was a pretty positive vibing show. And you know, we oftentimes we struggle with trying to give those to you because
Oh
the
yeah.
subject matter that we talk about oftentimes is very hard to talk about. It isn't the most happy thing to say anytime we talk about anything here. But
Yeah, the world right now is tough. You know what I mean?
yeah,
There's never been a time in the history of man that it's been more dangerous to be a drug addict than it is today. And it makes for, a lot of really, really hard things to talk about. A lot of people who are, we're losing people to this war. And it's a tough thing. And I know that a lot of you have lost people that you care about. We hear it every day. I get emails every single day from people that lost, dads and brothers and sisters. And so, yeah, it is nice when we can do an uplifting show every once in a while. Tommy Bird, thank you, man. I really appreciate that. It is really, for me, it's a really big deal. It is. And I want to say thank you again to Cooley McCoolson. You really are cool, my friend. I really do appreciate you.
that dude in
Lady
the background
Crispin?
is super annoying. So I'm annoying. I guess
Are
he's
they
talking
talking
to
about?
me. I don't know.
No, I think they may be talking about my background. What
The dude
the
in
dude in the background
it's me.
is super annoying.
It gotta be
Which
me.
background are we talking about?
I don't know. It must be me. I don't know. Matthew Future. I think I've seen him.
Or is he talking about Kirk?
I don't know, man. He's probably talking about me. It's okay. I'm all good.
Right?
Hey,
No, yeah, I mean,
hey,
it is what it is.
yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. On that pleasant note,
Hey,
yeah, you know what? We're at
we
the
love
we're
you,
at the
man.
top of the hour, and
Come on
this
back.
is the part where daily I say we will be back tomorrow night, right at the same bat time and the same bat channel. It, however, was pointed out to me that this isn't the Batman show, and we've been saying that for a really long time, and it doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. So it has been suggested that I say we will be back tomorrow night, same squirrel time, same squirrel place. So we're going to see how that flies for a little while. She actually perked up a little bit when I said it.
I do.
So we will see you tomorrow night, people. Hopefully, we'll all have a lot of fun stuff to say, right? Oh,
That's right.
I am Captain Tommy Scovel, and on the other side of the glass,
Captain Mark Wages.
yeah, there
The
you go.
annoying one.
And this, and this is a fat cat in a basket that's just a little too small. Good night, everybody. We love you.